Bolivia is a country in Central South America, and this is its national flag. Well, it's one of Bolivia's national flags. That's right, Bolivia is the only country in the world with two national flags right now at the same time. There's this one that was adopted in 1851, but there's also this flag. This is a square design, and it's divided into 49 smaller squares arranged in a 7x7 grid. And it's all organized in this really wild, fascinating, rainbow-colored diagonal pattern. It's amazing. Okay, so this other flag of Bolivia is called the Wiphala, which means flag in the local indigenous Aymara language, which is spoken by about 1 million people in Bolivia. Over a third of Bolivia's entire population comes from the indigenous nations of the western area of the country, in the Andes Mountains. These nations used to be part of the Inca Empire, that enormous Inca Empire back in the late 1400s and early 1500s. Now at that time, the Inca Empire organized its territory into 4 major regions called suyus. There was Anti-Suyu, Chincha-Suyu, Kunti-Suyu, and this one in the southeast that goes into what is now Bolivia was called Cuya-Suyu. Many Bolivians from these indigenous nations consider the Wiphala to be an important symbol from the days of the Inca Empire, and that there were 4 different variations of the Wiphala for each of the 4 suyus. And you can tell them apart based on which color diagonal is in the very middle of the design. So the one with green in the middle was for Anti-Suyu, the one with red in the middle was for Chincha-Suyu, the one with yellow in the middle was for Kunti-Suyu, and the one that Bolivia uses has white in the middle for the Cuya-Suyu. Now, did the Inca Empire actually use these Wiphala flags? The evidence is not totally clear on this. Historians have been debating this one for a while. There have apparently been Wiphala fragments found in the region, these are Spanish writings from the colonial period that do describe rainbow symbols of the Inca Empire, and there's even one Spanish writing that describes an Inca royal standard with a rainbow on it. So, maybe. However, there are a lot of indigenous nations across the Andes Mountains that used to be part of the Inca Empire, and not all of them use the Wiphala very much. For example, in Peru, there's this other horizontal rainbow flag that's often considered to be the Inca flag, and this one got so popular among Peruvian indigenous nations that the city of Cusco, which used to be the capital of the empire, officially adopted it as its official city flag back in 1978. So, Peruvian indigenous nations don't really use the Wiphala very much. It appears to be mostly a Bolivian thing, especially among the Aymara people. So, how did the Wiphala get so popular in Bolivia? Well, around 1990 there was this movement getting started, this indigenous rights movement called the 500 Years of Resistance. It was timed to coincide with the 500th anniversary of the 1490s, when Europe started to, infiltrate the Americas the way they do. So in around 1990, this movement gets started, the 500 Years of Resistance, and they use the Wiphala a lot in their demonstrations, in their marches, and this flag becomes associated very strongly with indigenous rights. And because of that, politicians in Bolivia started to use the Wiphala flag quite a bit in their campaigns. Then in 2005, this one candidate, this Aymara guy named Evo Morales, who's running for president as part of the MAS party, or the Movimiento al Socialismo party, he uses the Wiphala a ton. He flies it on all his campaign vehicles. He uses this flag on his campaign a bunch. And his campaign got a ton of support from the indigenous communities of Bolivia, and he won. Evo Morales in 2006 became Bolivia's first indigenous president. So, this new socialist, pro-indigenous president starts making a ton of government reforms, and one of the things he wants to do is change Bolivia's constitution. So in 2009, he gets a referendum going across the country for people to vote on these constitutional changes. The referendum passes, so some things got changed. One of the things that got changed was the official name of the country. It went from the Republic of Bolivia to the plurinational state of Bolivia, because Morales is big on all the nations, all the indigenous nations, and the white Bolivians, black Bolivians. It's a plurinational state, that's kind of what he's saying through this. And another big thing that changed was that the Wiphala flag was officially adopted as a national symbol, equal to the 1851 flag. So that's when the Wiphala became one of Bolivia's 2 flags. So this was really exciting to a lot of the former Inca nations. However, A lot of people in Bolivia did not like this at all. A lot of them don't feel represented by this Wiphala flag because they're not from the Andean nations. They might just be European descendants, or they might be from indigenous nations in the eastern area of the country, the rainforest areas that were never part of the Inca Empire. So this flag has a lot of supporters, it's got a lot of critics, but it's probably not going anywhere anytime soon because Evo Morales loves this flag and he is very determined to stay in power, even if that means doing some very undemocratic things. So this Wiphala flag is probably here to stay for quite a while. And that is the story of Bolivia's other national flag. So if you're ever traveling in Bolivia or looking at news pictures from Bolivia and you notice this multicolored rainbow checker flag, now you know what that is. That's the Wiphala. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Have an awesome day. Adios.